Hello and welcome back to an Old Man Watches, where today I will be talking about the 2008 Chinese historical action epic The Battle of Red Cliff, which was originally released in China under the shorter title of just Red Cliff. As you might surmise from the name, the movie is based on the Battle of Red Cliffs, which took place about 1,800 years ago in the early 200s CE. On one side of the battle were an alliance of southern warlords, and on the other side was Cao Cao, who was also a warlord, but one who benefited from the fig leaf of imperial authority because he had essentially taken the emperor hostage and had him in his power and could therefore force him to give him, at least ostensibly, imperial authority to do things. And the film begins with Cao Cao denouncing the southern warlords as rebels and leading the imperial army on a campaign to conquer their territory. His plan is to conquer each of the warlords in turn, a task which should be simple given his massive advantage in manpower and resources. His advantage is so large, in fact, that he thinks it probable the Southerners will, at least some of them, surrender outright rather than try to mount a seemingly doomed defence. Of course, it wouldn't be much of a movie if the tyrannical Cao Cao simply rolled over his enemies, so you're probably not going to be surprised to learn that he has underestimated his opponents. The southern warlords not only choose to resist and to work together, but they and their commanders soon demonstrate levels of courage and cunning that turn the seemingly simple victory into what may be an unexpected setback. Now, you may have listened to that plot summary and thought, oh, massively outnumbered group of quote-unquote good guys facing off against a hugely superior force, at least in terms of numbers, sounds like a Chinese Thermopylae, which is, perhaps a bit culturally insensitive, but it does fairly accurately describe the basic scenario. The southern warlords are massively outnumbered in terms of resources, and through courage and cleverness, they're going to stymie their foe and ultimately ensure the triumph of their cause. Now, one difference between the two situations is that the southern warlords did actually win the historical Battle of Red Cliffs. Despite what 300 would have you believe, the Spartans did lose at Thermopylae. Like Dunkirk, that battle was a defeat, but it was one that bought time and also was able to be turned into a rousing battle cry. Redcliffe, on the other hand, actually saw the Southern Warlords pull off a surprise triumph, driving Cao Cao out of their territory, and that is the story being told here. The Battle of Redcliffe is also a different film to 300 in at least a few other aspects, the first of which is that it's much less racist and jingoistic. Now, of course, it is helped in that regard by the fact that both sides of the battle are ethnic Chinese, but it's also visually much more diverse, with a far more varied colour palette than 300's would you like orange or teal approach. It also features more than one female character of significance. Hurrah! Admittedly, it only makes it to two, but that's still more. Director John Woo was unabashed about the fact that he prioritised emotional connection for a modern audience over historical accuracy, estimating the film is in broad terms only 50% factual. I suspect that's a very arbitrary figure he's picked out of the air there. This battle happened a very long time ago, and the details of the battle are subject to a lot of interpretation. Even the location where it occurred seems to be widely debated, let alone the specific events that took place. But at least Wu acknowledged that he was making a movie first and an accurate depiction of history second, third, fourth, somewhere much lower down the priority list. Unfortunately, as a movie, I think The Battle of Redcliffe is a bit of a failure, at least in the form I saw it. Now, I saw it as a single 148-minute long movie. In China, the film was released in two parts, each of around that length, for a combined runtime of close to 5 hours. And in that 5-hour form, it was a big success at its domestic box office in China. And I mentioned that there are two different versions of the film and that the one I saw was not the original because I wonder if the cutting process contributed to what I consider to be the film's first major flaw, which is that the villains are completely inept, verging on colossally stupid. They blunder into every trap the good guys plan and fall for every trick the good guys play. Now, of course, we all know the bad guys are ultimately going to lose because this is a movie and that's what happens in films, and also because Cao Cao did historically lose the battle. So naturally, they do have to make some mistakes and blunders. But as I've said before, and will doubtless say again in the future, your heroes are only as good as the villains they overcome. If your antagonists don't seem even remotely competent, then your heroes aren't really accomplishing anything by defeating them. Now, were all the parts where Cao Cao and his minions were actually a threat cut out of the shorter version of the film? I mean, they did have to cut a lot. Certainly, they're never competent in any part of the movie that I saw. And the film, in the form I saw it, lacked any tension as a result. Maybe the 5-hour version is better. I'm going to be honest, I didn't like this one enough to sit through the 5-hour version to find out. Now, John Woo is famed for his action sequences, and perhaps if the battle scenes in this film had been exciting enough, I could have forgiven that the hero's triumph seemed so effortless. But alas, I didn't find the battle scenes compelling. The film is clearly going for epic and dramatic in its choreography, but to my eyes, the action scenes instead come across as extremely contrived, sometimes verging on being outright goofy. Now, it's entirely possible that there are Chinese cinematic conventions at play here that I'm missing. Every nation's film industry has its own idiosyncrasies and practices, things that its domestic audiences expect and understand, and for which a foreign viewer, such as myself in this case, lacks the context. However, I'm an English-speaking Western viewer, and I can only talk about these movies as I experience them, and as an English-speaking Western viewer, to my eyes, the action sequences were stilted and unconvincing. Ultimately, for me, the Battle of Red Cliff suffers cinematic defeat. Next time, Three Kingdoms, also from China, also from 2008, and based around the same era of the country's history. Also another film that didn't quite gel for me, though I do think it does some things considerably better than Red Cliff did. But that's next time. Until then, thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you've seen today's movie, particularly if you've seen the 5-hour version, let me know what you thought of it.